Okay, today we are doing The Secret History by Donna Tartt, and we're looking at the vocabulary in chapter 1. And I've just finished reading this book, and I have to say it's one of my favourite books for the last few years. It really is a fantastic novel. It kept me up until 5 o'clock in the morning because I really wanted to find out what happened in the next chapter and then what happened at the end. And so we're just going to look at the vocabulary in chapter 1. And chapter 1, like the prologue, is retold by the narrator, Richard Papin, and I would say he's an unreliable narrator for a few different reasons. Firstly, narrators are always unreliable because they have biases, they have prejudices, they might have friends who they hold in very high regard and enemies that they don't hold in high regard, who they don't like. And so these biases might determine how they tell you the story. But secondly, he's often drunk or taking drugs in part 2, and so that also makes him an unreliable narrator. And there are a lot of other characters in this story who are lying at different times as well. And so it's not just an unreliable narrator, it's unreliable characters as well in the story. Now, Richard starts by telling us that he used to believe that fatal character flaws only existed in literature, but now he believes that everybody does have a fatal flaw, and a flaw is an imperfection, and we very often talk about somebody's character flaws, but you can use flaw in other situations as well. If an object has a flaw, if an item has a flaw that you buy from the shop, then it's got something that's not right, something that means that it doesn't work properly, and so it's an imperfection, and you take it back to the shop and get a refund. But when you're talking about character flaws, well, these are imperfections in your personality, in your character, things that lead to your downfall, things that make you suffer or make you lose in life and not win in life. And he tells us that his fatal flaw is a morbid longing for the picturesque. And what does this mean? Well, a longing for something is a desire for something. That's all it means, a longing for, a yearning for, a desire for. Now, morbid means related to death in some kind of way. So it's a very negative adjective. And so some kind of deathly desire, some kind of desire that's connected to death. But this deadly desire for the picturesque, for something beautiful. Usually we use picturesque to describe, it's usually an adjective rather than a noun, and a picturesque village is a village that looks perhaps really pretty in an old-fashioned way. I think quite often picturesque is connected to old-fashioned things, and Richard is certainly interested in old-fashioned things. He doesn't seem to like modern life, but he loves the classics. He loves ancient Greece and ancient Rome. And so he has this longing for beauty. For beauty, you might say the picturesque is like the beautiful. And the ancient Greeks were very interested in what is beauty. And he has this desire for the beautiful, but this desire for the beautiful is somehow connected with death as well. And so even in this very first couple of sentences of chapter 1, we have this interesting idea that Richard has some kind of imperfection, a character flaw, and it's this desire for beauty, but it's a deathly desire for beauty. Now he tells us where he's from. He's from a very plain place called Plano, and I think that name has been chosen on purpose, I'm guessing, because for him, his childhood was incredibly boring, incredibly dull, incredibly dreary, tedious, and when he goes to university in Hampton, suddenly he has this new world. He enters into this new world of ancient Greece and ancient Rome because he decides to study the classics, as we find out in chapter 1. But whenever he talks about his childhood in California, in Plano, he says the word conjures up. And this means when something conjures up something else, when X conjures up Y, that means that X conjures up the mental image of Y in your head. It creates the mental image of these three things. And so when Richard thinks about his hometown where he was born, when he even just thinks of the word Plano, which is where he grew up, the word conjures up, it creates images of drive-ins, yeah, and so if you go to a drive-in movie, a drive-in theatre, a drive-in cinema, they're those cinemas where you don't even get out of your car, you just drive in and watch the film right there from your car, you don't even need to get out.